The meeting of the Committee of the Whole will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Chenoweth, Mr. Hayes,
Present.
Ms. Booth, Ms. Pat,
Present.
Mr. Otto,
Present.
Mr. Whalen,
Absent.
Ms. Wyman.
Here.
Mayor Satterthwaite.
Whalen called my office this afternoon and indicated that he was not going to be able to make tonight's meeting.
I spoke with Ms. Huth earlier today, and she said she wasn't going to be able to come, and Ms. Chenoweth emailed me and said she is out of town with her father, so isn't able to come tonight.
Do we have any additions to the agenda or staff report?
The only thing I have is there's a letter on your desk from the Park District School District and Township for considering the 2-year extension of the Build Urbana, which we hope to bring to you shortly, and so they're beginning to take action on our program. So that'll be coming in the near term. I have nothing else.
Can we get approval of the minutes from the previous meeting?
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded that the minutes of the previous meeting be approved. Any questions? Ms. Wyman?
I have one change on page 3 of the full paragraphs counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Last line, the first full sentence of the last line states the motion was seconded by Mr. Hayes. There needs to be a sentence inserted there that says something to the effect of Ms. Chenoweth abstained due to a perceived conflict of interest. And so I move that we insert that sentence to correct the minutes.
Anyone against that? Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Now I have public input. Anyone from the audience who wishes to speak before the council for a period of 5 minutes, please fill out one of these slips back in the back and give it to the city clerk. Mr. John Chato, 714 West Vermont.
The Illinois Student Environmental Network, ISEN, had to suspend the battery recycling program because of financial problems. It cost them roughly $1.50 per pound to process the batteries, and they did not receive enough donations to cover the cost. They could not provide exact figures, but it was estimated that last year the program cost them around $1,200 per month to operate, although the battery collections and consequently the costs were increasing very strongly. ISEN is working on developing more accurate information in the near future. I believe that this is a very important program that should not only be continued, but should extend to include fluorescent light bulbs, which are becoming more and more popular. Therefore, I urge the City Council to investigate the possibilities of supporting such a program in Urbana. We already have a recycling program for paper and plastic, and the addition of batteries and fluorescent light bulbs would be an extremely worthwhile endeavor. And I have this letter to be deposited wherever it has to be deposited.
Want to give it
Give it to the city clerk. Any questions? Dwayne?
I just want to let you know I spoke with Rob Fletcher, who's in charge of the U-Cycle program for the city a couple weeks ago, and then I left another message today asking if the city could look into taking over the battery recycling program, because I too am concerned that since ISEN stopped recycling batteries. And so I've left a message, and I hadn't heard back today, but hope that we can at least look into the possibility of extending this and offering such a program as I know they do I know at least they do in some cities in Germany, and I presume in other cities in the U.S. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention as well.
Yeah, there would be several ways of supporting this, and I talked with some people at ISON this evening and suggested to them some possibilities. For instance, in my opinion, one of the ways of doing it is that charge the depositors of batteries a certain amount, for instance, just to say $1.75 for each pound of your batteries, period. And that would cover the expense. And so there's various ways of this could be financed, and I don't necessarily propose an increase in tax on this or anything like that, but I think it would be very worthwhile to explore what would be the best way to do it. And I don't know what's available for fluorescent light bulbs, but I have 2 of them at home right now that I don't know what to do with. And so it occurred to me that there's more and more fluorescent light bulbs being used, and they apparently should not be thrown into the ordinary trash bins because they contain mercury, I think it is, so that it should be recycled some appropriate way. But I don't know what's available for that. Obviously, battery recycling is available.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any input from council members? If not, we'll go on to the agenda. Ordinance number 2004-09-133. An ordinance amending Chapter 14, Section 14-7. Schedule of fees, taxicabs and limousines.
I'll make a comment or two before Ms. Seabrook does. Apparently, due to some kind of a numbering error, this ordinance was not actually formally passed, even though it appears to have been the intent of council to do so back on May 10th and May 17th, when the council considered these initially with the taxi cab ordinance. So this fixes the problem.
Any other questions or concerns? If not, a motion will be in order.
We send this to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second. Been moved and seconded that this ordinance be sent to council with a recommendation for approval. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We'll send this to council. Item 6. Ordinance number 2004-09-131. An ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, Route 130, High Cross Road corridor.
This is a grant that we received, was announced 2 years ago, and was contained, our share was contained in the last budget, but according to our procedures, this should come forward as a budget amendment to reflect the receipt of the money and the portion that is a local match. The study is approximately 50% complete at this point, and our local match will be offset by in-kind services.
Ms. Wyman.
Is this part of the Loop Road study?
It got involved in it. The Ring Road was a concept that was studied as part of the long-range transportation plan, and that is now out in draft form. We'll be bringing that to committee later in October to review that. The way the Ring Road segments are shown is changed since you saw the first presentation by Kuwat's. So we'll be reviewing that again. So it did get involved to the extent that High Cross was designated as a portion of the Ring Road. The designation north of 74 has now been clouded to allow completion of this study.
So, if I understand right, this is separate from the Ring Road study, but done in collaboration with it?
It's a separate planning study that happened to overlap with the long-range transportation plan. It extends from Olympian Drive, north of Olympian Drive, all the way south to Airport Road along both sides of High Cross. And it was a land use / transportation study funded by Illinois Tomorrow grants, and we're trying to incorporate to the extent we can with a comprehensive plan that's underway as well. So there's 3 studies, all of which have some overlap to the extent that they look at this roadway.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, a motion would be in order.
I move to send this to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. This ordinance be sent to council for approval. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this will be forwarded to council. Item number 7, ordinance number 2004-08-111. An ordinance vacating a portion of Wright Street adjacent to Dunbar Court.
Take it away?
Yeah.
Okay. The city staff and members of the Housing Authority, and they're represented here tonight, Ms. Patty Smith in particular, is here to answer any questions that you may have for the Housing Authority. But basically, there have been some improvements in the Dunbar Court area to add parking, and the parking ideally was best located within the Wright Street area right away. So we felt that this street dead ends, well, let me back up, the street dead ends basically at Dunbar Court, and it essentially services the Housing Authority and the Dunbar Court housing units there. So we felt that rather than have a license agreement to allow parking to occur within this right-of-way, and since it wasn't really serving any other public use than strictly for the Housing Authority, we felt it might be best to vacate this portion of Wright Street, which is adjacent to the Dunbar Court. We did talk to the City of Champaign and Champaign Park District, who are west of this portion of Wright Street. They had no objections to the vacation of Wright Street. So what's before you this evening is their request, staff support for such a vacation. The other policy issue for consideration is that would there be a cost or not for such a vacation when there are adjacent businesses, commercial, industrial development. There has been such appraisals done and what have you. In this case, being a nonprofit and it's residential adjacent, which is the housing units, we felt that it wouldn't be appropriate for a appraisal to be done for the vacation. Plus, there wouldn't be a new lot created based on this vacation. That's another consideration we look at when we look at vacations of such streets. So it's our suggestion that it be done at no cost to the Housing Authority, and I'll try to answer any questions.
Any questions? Approval?
Second.
Let me just ask you one. A few years back, the city donated that alley to the Housing Authority. Mm-hmm. So we don't own that now either.
That's correct. Yeah, you are correct. The east-west alley immediately south of Dunbar, that was vacated to the adjacent properties, the residential and Housing Authority. Mm-hmm.
Okay. No questions? Motion will be in order.
Move to send this to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second is ready moved.
Been moved and seconded that this ordinance be forwarded to council for approval. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it will be sent to council. Item number 8. Ordinance number 2004-09-129. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to establish a parking meter zone on certain streets. Elm Street.
Yes, there's 2 actions here. The first would be to establish a parking meter zone, expand it actually. Excuse me. This is adjacent to the library. This is where the book drop-off boxes used to be located on the south side. They've now been relocated as part of the library construction internal to the parking area south of the library. And to take advantage of this space that is now freed up, if you will, we're suggesting that we would expand the parking meter zones, add 3 more spaces, so there'll be more on-street parking on the south side of Elm Street, which is convenient to go to the library. And that's the first action item. The second action item would then be the removal of the no parking, which is item number 9. So this was all considered at the most recent Urbana Traffic Commission meeting.
So we can take them in omnibus motion? Sure. Can we get a motion for ordinance number 2004-09-129 and ordinance number 2004-09-130?
I move we send both of these to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
The moved and seconded that both of these ordinances be sent to council for approval. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. These 2 ordinances will be sent to council.